Hey guys, it's Mr. Darude. In my last video, I discussed our outline and I told you guys to pop on over here to our additional notes. So in this video, I'm going to talk about Chapter 1, Section 1 additional notes. That's all I'm going to be covering today. I will be talking about the other additional notes on another day. So this section's a little long, but it is going to be worth it to hear me out. Now, I will tell you what is the most important, and you guys don't have to write down every word I'm putting out on the screen right now, but it is important that you at least get the ideas down. So again, you guys are not turning this in for a grade. This isn't going to be like, oh, this is due on Friday with the outline. No, you're going to keep this. This is what you're going to use for your test, okay? So please take advantage of my lecture here, okay? Also, this will be excellent if anybody was confused on what we talked about in class. Now, it's pretty much what we talked about, but I'm going to go over it once again. Sorry, my phone keeps going off. All right. So the first one is define what government is. In short, government is the institution through which society makes and enforces public policy. Public policy, guys, just means laws, so that's why I put that in parentheses. Government is made up of the people who exercise its powers. That just means the people who are in control. So what this means, guys, is that government is an institution. It is a body. It's what we as people form to make society run. It is the institution. It is the actual body that we have to keep the government going. They make and they enforce the public policy. They enforce laws. They keep order. And we've discussed government a lot in class, especially with our if you guys were in class today, our answer garden, or even on Tuesday when we had that cool video from Crash Course that we watched. So that is what government is. Now, if you remember from my outline video, we discussed that government has three parts to it of powers. They have executive power, legislative power, and judicial power. Every government has this. This is why I put this in parentheses right here. All government have all three. So that just means that they have all three of these. Now, what I did is I put some examples of what executive looks like. I used all of these from the United States. This might look different in other countries, but the executive is the presidency. So the president in the United States is the executive. They are the ones that carry out the laws. And our president currently is Joe Biden. He was just elected. And he just took office not that long ago. And he is in charge of the federal level. So he's in charge of the national government. But the executive also goes further down. There's also a governor on the state level, and our governor is Governor Gretchen Whitmer. I just put Whitmer here. And then I didn't put it in here, but mayors are on a city level. So like city of Detroit has Mayor Mike Duggan. So he is in charge of exacting the rules and carrying out the laws in his area. So it always goes up the chain of command, but that is what an executive is. So you could just put these examples down. I just want a little more detail. Now, legislative, these are the people that, again, they make the laws. In the U.S. Congress, which is the House of Representatives and the Senate, they are the ones that create the laws. And Nancy Pelosi is Mitt Romney is part of the Congress. And also, one of the most crazy stuff is the meme guy you guys are familiar with, Bernie Sanders, with his mittens and his jacket. He is also part of the legislature. He is a senator from Vermont, and he is very popular amongst young people and people who really like his ideas. Some people hate him, some people like him, but he's another example you guys can put down. You guys don't have to put Romney if you don't want, or Nancy Pelosi. You guys can put Bernie Sanders if you like. This is for you. So the legislative, the Congress, they are the ones in the United States that make the laws. Now, then in the judicial, the ones that interpret the laws, they say, oh, this is what the law means, is the U.S. Supreme Court. That is the big one. Now, we have smaller courts, and we'll discuss that later on in our class, but that is a big one. And we did have Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but sadly she died, and she died a couple months ago. and she was actually replaced by Amy Coney Barrett. She was appointed by Trump, and she was approved by the Senate, and now we have a new justice on the court. So these are the examples for these three. So go ahead, write those down, but I am going to continue. And if you need to, you guys can always pause the video and write what I have written if I go too quick. All right. So a constitution is, in short, the body of fundamental laws setting up the principles, structure, and the process of the government. So this is basically, the Constitution lays out what the government will be doing. Just like I mentioned earlier about the preamble, how it's set up what the Constitution will discuss, this is actually laying out what exactly they will be doing. So the Constitution, we have a Constitution, but other countries also have a Constitution, will lay out the laws. It also said, okay, these are our principles. We believe in freedom, or we believe in not having freedom, whatever words that they use. They have structure. This is how we are structuring our government. And then how exactly that process will go about, how exactly will we solve issues, or how exactly will things run? That's exactly what a constitution does. This is why when you say, is that constitutional? Is that unconstitutional? We're talking about in the United States, our system of government, and if it is following what our founding fathers designed. We will talk a lot about the founding fathers in this course, and you will see why. All right. So there are two main forms of government. We have a dictatorship and we have a democracy. Dictatorships, a lot of people in class were talking about this, are people who are usually looked upon in a bad way, but the thing is that they hold all the power. They control all the power in the hands of a single person or a small group. So it could be one person, like for example, it could be me. I could be a dictator and I could say, I am in charge of everything. Mr. Drood is in charge of everything. Or it could be, oh, well, me, Mrs. Lucas, and Mrs. Fox, we are in charge. All three of us, we're the ones that make it. So it's not just one person, it's a small group, but it's never huge. It's never a lot. So it's a small group. They have limited responsibility of the control of power for the government. They control the executive, legislative, and judicial parts of the government. Just like how we said all three are needed in a government, well, they still do. And in a dictatorship, it is whole held in the hands of one or a small group of people. A perfect example of this is North Korea. North Korea has one family who's in charge of it all. The Un family. Kim Jong-un is the main leader. He is the one that's in charge of it currently, and he is the dictator. But also, back in the day, Hitler, as you see here, was a dictator. Hitler was a ruthless dictator. Stalin could be seen as a dictator. So there's a lot of examples here you can use. I just put these down. So all the power is in the hands of a single or small group of people is a dictatorship. That means democracy is the exact opposite. The power and responsibility of the government is control of the majority of people. That means the most amount of people. The most people agree with this. So the people are in charge. The people, as I'm highlighting. The people. In a democracy, supreme authority rests with the people. So they get to decide how it happens. Some are direct democracies, which we'll talk about later, where they elect their officials and government directly, or it's indirect, like the United States, where we elect people, representatives, and they are the ones that make our laws and control it. But we will discuss that at a later date. So these are the two main forms of government. All right, politics. Now, people get confused with politics. Sometimes people mix up government and politics all the time. And you need politics in government. You can't have it without it, but they are two different ideas. So the politics is the process. It is the way it happens, the process by which society decides how power and resources will be distributed within that society. So this means the politics is how the process, power, who gets the power, how much power they get. So politics figures that out for the people. So what is power distributed? Is the power in the hands of the people, in the hands of a small group of people? So how is the power distributed? And also the resources. Sometimes the resources need to be allocated and moved somewhere else. If it's during wartime, sometimes those resources might need to be put towards the war. During peacetime, it would be given to the states. It all depends. Sometimes resources mean, oh, who gets food? Who doesn't get food in some countries? So every government has politics, and it is the process. All right. So again, if you need to pause the video to watch this stuff, please do so, but I will continue on. All right. A state. A state needs 4 things to be a state. If it's missing any of these 4 ideas or 4 concepts or things, it will cease to be a state. It cannot be a state. So it needs these 3. First thing a state needs population. If a state doesn't have population, if a country doesn't have population, it's not a country. It's not a state. So the amount of people who live in a country or region. Now, this is the only thing you have to write is the amount of people who live in a country or region. But I go a little further and I say the US has a population of 300 million people. China has a population of 1.3 billion people. So this means that it doesn't really matter what the number is as long as it has people. Now, the more people, usually it means a little more powerful or possibly, but not necessarily. Countries can also be smaller. It can have just a few thousand, maybe even a few hundred. That's it, people. But usually it's higher than that. Now, I put here, note that people who make up a state do not need to be homogeneous. Homogeneous simply means the same. Not everyone's the same. So some people will have different skin color. Some people will speak different languages. Some people have completely different cultures. They do different things. They believe in different gods. And they may eat food differently. And they might have different customs. And that can happen in a state. Actually, the United States is a place where we are not all homogenous. We are different. We are unique. And we are proud of that. So at first, a state needs population. So that's the first thing a state needs. The second thing a state needs is territory. In short, guys, territory simply means it needs land. It needs country or region where it falls into. And that land has recognized borders. So they're recognized by other countries that they have borders. So we know exactly where the country begins and where the country ends. In the United States, and I'm talking about the continental United States, guys, we know our borders. In the north, we know where the border begins and ends with Canada. The same goes for the south with Mexico. We know when Mexico begins and where the United States starts. So we know where our boundaries is. And that doesn't just stop in between countries. We still know our borders even when we're next to oceans. On the east, we have the Atlantic Ocean, and on the west, we have the Pacific. So we have the region. Countries can have a large amounts of land, like Russia. Russia has a lot of land of 6.6 million square miles, or it could be small, like Vatican City. Vatican City is in the middle of Rome. It's surrounded on all sides by Rome, and it's only 109 acres. That is not a lot of land, guys. There are farms in the U.S. way bigger than this, where it's hundreds of acres. This only has 109 acres. That is not a lot of land. So, again, all you need to put for your territory is that it is the land a country or region falls into and it has recognized borders. That's all you need to put, but I put some of that more detail for anyone that needs it. The third thing a government needs is sovereignty. It needs sovereignty. Sovereignty simply means it has supreme and absolute power within its territory. They get to make up the rules. They are the ones that are in charge. No one else tells them, you have to follow my rules. They make up their own rules, and they can run it any way they like. They can decide their own domestic and foreign policies. So they get to make their own laws at home, and also what type of policy do they have? Oh, we have an open door, we let people in, or we talk to a lot of countries, we're very friendly. Or we could be very I'm not being friendly with people at all. Other countries, I'm not talking to you. They get to choose their own government frame. So how the government looks, they get to choose that. They get to choose their own economic structure. They can say, oh, we want our economy to be capitalist, or we want our government to be socialist or communist. They get, those are all economic structures, and they said this is how we want to build it. Then lastly, they get to control how they interact abroad. Again, foreign policy. So sovereignty is the third part of being a state. So you need a population, then you need territory, then you need sovereignty. How can you be taken seriously if you do not have sovereignty? Lastly, a government needs government. I mean, a state needs government. That's what I meant to say. So we already discussed government. It is how we are organized politically. I said this before, it is the institution of how society enforces policy. The government is an agency of which people exert their will and work to accomplish goals for the people/country. Government is necessary to avoid chaos and disorder. We have discussed this. So we need a government. We've already talked about government. So these are the 4 characteristics: population, territory, sovereignty, and government. Without this, there is chaos, and there is no state. There's no state without these 4 things. All right. Now, guys, I am not going, in this video, this is going to be a 2-part video because we did not cover the last part of this today. We did not look over number 7 today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a video tomorrow discussing part 2. So this is going to be part 1 of 2 parts. So we will discuss the purposes of government in the next video. And if you have any questions from this video, please send me a message, ask me for help, and definitely if you need to schedule office hours, do so. Remember, my normal office hours will be Wednesday from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. I am willing to work around that and schedule more if needed, but I wanted to make sure you guys know. This video is already getting pretty long, so I am going to say goodbye, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you, and have a wonderful day, guys.